Being in the wrong place at the wrong time is a mistake that Mochizuki Taya, an ordinary person in the real world, made. He was struck by lightning and died. Then he saw the Maker in heaven. The Creator expresses regret to Taya for accidentally ending his life. Tuya, who appears to be indifferent to his recent demise, accepts his fate and extends his forgiveness to the Creator for the mishap. The Maker, struck by his composure, chooses to avenge him by resurrecting him in an other universe. He explains to Tauya his intentions to transport him to a magically enhanced reality. Next, he asks Tauya whether he has any particular wishes for the new world. Tauya tells the Creator that, surprisingly, he wishes he could use his smartphone in this new environment. In addition to being able to perform all types of magic, including charging his phone, he is heading to the Maker, who also grants him his wishes. After the agreement is complete, the Maker transfers Tauya to the new magical realm via magic. In the woods, Tauya awakens and finds himself utterly disoriented. Wide out of heaven, that poor guy. In any case, his phone rings, and it's the Maker telling him about his smartphone's map feature. In the new world, at least, he won't get lost. After giving thanks to the Maker, Tauya continues forth. When a merchant notices the strange clothes Tauya is wearing, he stops his cart and heads towards the closest town. In addition to giving Tauya a free ride into town and purchasing all of the rare apparel he is wearing, he also gives him some gold coins and some regular clothes. In good faith, Tauya accepts every present and leaves the store of the merchant. He inquires of the merchant whether there are any inns around before departing. He learns from the shopkeeper that the Silver Moon Inn is located someplace in the town. Tauya makes his way to the inn from the shop. He hears two women being robbed in a nearby alleyway while he is on his way there. The two women were apparently involved in a shady deal. Upon approaching the muggers, Tauya uses a gold coin to purchase the products for the girls and gives the two guys a severe beating. Tuya's body appeared to have been endowed with superhuman reflexes by the Maker as well. Following the altercation, he reveals to the women who identify as Els and Linza that he was looking for an inn. Tauya goes with the women after they inform him that they are going there. When Tauya arrives, she checks into the inn for a month and has a little brunch with the women. There, they discuss finding employment in the town by helping the populace with their missions. Tauya accepts their proposal, and the following day they all arrive at the guild to begin completing tasks in order to gain cash. When Tauya arrives, he discovers he is unable to read the characters in this realm and asks them to do so. The girls select the medium difficulty quest after looking through all of the ones on the board. They take out their weapons, register as knights, and immediately go into the forest to apprehend the 5 one-horned wolves that are indicated on the poster. The group's efforts pay off when they successfully apprehend 6 one-horned wolves. They take off the wolves' horns and return them to the guild so they can be paid. The attendant gives them their cash after confirming their kills. Upon returning to the inn, Tauya requests that Elsa and Linza instruct him in reading and writing their native tongue. After giving Linza the task, Elsa resumes their conversation. Tauya also requests that the women teach him how to wield magic. First things first, they need to be sure he can utilize magic. 6 distinct spell stones are produced by Linza, each of which stands for a different element of magic. That being said, it should be impossible for a person to use more than 3 elements in their lifetime. Tauya discovers that he can employ all 6 aspects of magic though. Seeing Tauya utilize null magic, the rarest magic spell in their universe, shocks Elsa and Linza to their core. To grant access through a wormhole to the woodland they were last in. The women congratulate Tauya on her talent after testing out their spells. Tauya chuckles, nervous now. The 3 are interrupted at that moment to meet Ire, the girl who works across town, by the innkeeper. To expand the menu at her shop, Ire has been looking for a delectable dish to add. All of a sudden, Tauya remembers ice cream from his previous life. He pulls out his magic device, which is his phone, and searches online for the recipe for ice cream. He shares the recipe with Ire and the girls and gives it a try. Once prepared, the women taste the ice cream and are pleasantly surprised by its flavor. Just now, Talia had rescued Ire's store. Talia snaps a photo of Elsa on their wagon and saves it as they head to their next mission. They choose to halt and rest after traveling a short distance. They seem to be looking for a place to relax for the day while their route to deliver a letter to the royal palace. Before carrying on with their voyage, they decide to go investigate a noise they hear while considering where to go next. They witness a female samurai using her incredible power to defeat several men as they arrive. Sadly, she gives up when she becomes really hungry and leaves herself open to the male's assaults. Talia intervenes swiftly to protect her from the men. After taking out every man, they flee to a town alleyway. The woman introduces herself as Kakanoya there, a female Eshin samurai. Talia greets her and inquires as to what may have gotten her into such difficulties. When Yi gets to the capital, she tells them she kind of lost her trip money and has been starving for days. Yi is mercifully treated to a substantial meal by Talia and the women. Yi devours the meal with a voracious hunger. She eats like an animal, and Elsa invites her to come because they were both heading to the capital. She follows them after lunch because she seems to be okay with it. Linza gives Talia a dictionary of magic spells while they are traveling to the city, and exhorts him to make use of it in order to master the various spells he'll require in order to become an accomplished wizard. When Talia opens the dictionary, she reads everything she can on magic spells and other related topics. Elsa and Lindsay also touch on a few topics regarding elemental magic and the jargon associated with it. Talia experiments with a practical magic spell from the book. After reciting the incantation, he calls Yi's hairband to his arms. The girls are pleased and shocked at how quickly Talia picked things up. Talia immediately begins studying the remaining spells in the book after giving Yi's headband back. He uses Elsa's fortification magic to enhance his sense of smell and detects blood odors in the air. Telling Yi right away, he rides in the direction of the scent's origin. When they arrive, they discover that a magician is attacking some travelers. Without delay, they take action and eliminate every one of the wizard's lizardmen. They reach the wagon and discover Lime once the attacker has been subdued. An arrow to the chest had left one of the attendants there gravely injured. Talia utilizes magic to heal himself fully and take out the arrow from his chest. The travelers identify themselves as Lime and Sushi Hernia Ortlinda after recuperating completely in a matter of seconds. Her personal attendant, Elsa, and the others quickly bowed down in reverence to the Duke's daughter. Sushi's father is the country's king's younger brother, it seems. Upon expressing their gratitude, Talia and the women proceed to the royal palace with Sushi and her information. They arrive to the royal castle after several hours. Talia and the women have Sushi's father's sincere appreciation, as he has been waiting for his daughter and the heroes who saved her. During lunch, Talia asks Sushi's father, Alfred, whether he has any idea who might have been pursuing him. Alfred informs him that the person requesting money from him is most likely a bandit or wizard. When Sushi eventually joins them, she tells about her mother Ellen. Talia is invited to meet her, but Alfred tells her that he cannot permit it because she is blind. Ellen's vision could perhaps be restored if they could locate somebody skilled in the usage of null magic. Tuya agrees to attempt utilizing null magic to help Ellen see again. Tuya is a multi-magician. After obtaining the dictionary, he visits Ellen in her room. Talia utilizes his null magic to restore Ellen's vision in front of the ladies and Alfred. Ellen can see her sweetheart again for the first time in a very long time. As soon as Talia helps Ellen see, the women swarm around him to express their gratitude. Alfred gives Talia 40 platinum coins as a token of his appreciation. When Talia converts, he discovers that Alfred has just given him 40 million yen. Talia attempts to decline the present, but since they would need it on the journey back to the village, Alfred advises him to take it as a gesture of good faith. Ye respectfully requests to continue traveling with Talia and the other women as they depart from town later on. Talia must grant her request in order for peace to prevail. Talia, the other three ladies, and a lost-looking girl are strolling through the streets of the royal capital. They come up to her and inquire as to her location. Telling Talia and the others that she got lost from her older sister, the girl goes by Arma. Talia locates Arma's older sister and gives her back using his smartphone. A few hours later, Tuya returns to his gang, wearing a coat that seems to have a mystical affinity of some kind. Back at the inn, he uses his phone to tell the time. When night falls, Tuya gets to see the customer and his friend play shogi on the board he made for them a few days prior, despite the heavy downpour. Tuya learns that the girls had to leave the house in the pouring rain in order to assist people in the town. They bring gifts for everyone, including the Duke, as they return from their expedition at that same moment. Talia is assigned the duty of presenting the roll cake to the Duke and his family as a token of gratitude for their hospitality. Talia travels to the royal palace using the gate magic in order to see the Duke. He serves the roll cake to his kin. His daughter gets to watch them play, while Alfred settles down to learn the game. Before long, Sushi gets excited and entices Talia to allow her to play the game. It is late at night when Talia is forced to bear Sushi's torture. The girls go to the guild the following day to see what quests are available to them, led by Talia. The girls disagree with Talia's suggestion that they defeat the gigantic slimes. The girls accept his offer to go on another assignment. They proceed straight into the woods after registering for the task. There, they encounter numerous mystical creatures, whom they cooperate to vanquish collectively. After finishing, they take a little break before beginning their quest for the riches. Using his search spell, Talia finds the historical item within a spooky cave system. After Linza makes a way for them to enter the cave system, everyone enters the eerie dark tunnel. Linza casts her illumination magic to bring about enough light to see around the cave. They move forward a few meters and come across some old writings on the wall in front of them. With his smartphone out, Talia captures images of the text on the wall. They link the writings to a spell stone found on Earth. Tuya is the only one among them who can use elemental magic from the soil, so the girls give him room to turn on the mechanism. Talia opens a door to a closed passageway by using his magic to activate the stone. A glass statue sitting on a stone greets them as they enter the concealed chamber. The stone comes to life as they play around with the glass statue to examine something. Talia teleports himself and the women out of the cave using the gate spell. Unfortunately for them, the beast assaults and chases them. Together, Talia and the women attempt multiple strikes on the glass object, but to no avail. Talia resolves to give one thing a try. He draws the red orb from the glass monster and teleports it to his hands. Elsa breaks it into pieces after he tosses it in her direction. The glass monster smashes into itself. Therefore, this plan works. They return to the royal palace after completing the assignment to inform the Duke of their findings. After expressing gratitude for their assistance, the Duke obtains all the information he requires regarding the creature. Talia drives them all home after their brief meeting. Talia prints up the images he took back among the ruins at the inn, and to deliver the copies to Alfred, Gates personally returns to his home. He arrives to discover Alfred hurriedly fleeing his residence. It appears that his brother, the Emperor, had been poisoned. Alfred was headed to the palace to look into the matter and spend his dying hours with his brother. Alfred takes Talia with him to the palace. While traveling, Alfred confides in Talia that he believes his brother was most likely poisoned by Miss Mead's subjects, poisoning the monarch to arrange a political marriage with his daughter, given their fierce rivalry with his brother's realm. That wouldn't seem too unbelievable, Princess Yumina. After giving it careful thought, Talia chooses to hold off on speaking until he has first-hand knowledge of the situation. They arrive at the palace to a nasty greeting from Count Balsa, a sleazy old guy and his majesty's servant, who informs them they have found the guilty party. Upon inquiry, the count informs Alfred that the offender is a courier from the kingdom of Miss Mead. Until the monarch regains consciousness, Alfred stops the count from harming the messenger. After bringing Talia before the king, Alfred lets him use the recovery null magic on him. The king quickly returns after Tuya's successful procedure. He receives gratitude from the monarch and his family for his assistance. Even Charlotte, the stunning magician of the king, pays a visit to this attractive young mage with null magic skills. Despite her nervousness, Talia accepts all of the gratitude. Now that the monarch is back to his usual self, it's time to identify the offender. Olga Strand is called upon. The envoy of the Miss Mead kingdom came to the palace to give an explanation. The girl identifies herself as Arma's older sister to Talia. He finds it hard to accept that such a kind person could act in that way. He therefore begs the monarch to let him see the scene of the crime. When he arrives, Talia uses his search magic to locate the poison throughout the space. He asks that Count Balsa and the king's subjects be called to the scene of the crime. Talia informs them that the culprit is among them as soon as they arrive. Count Balsa begins to perspire almost instantly. Taking up the bottle of wine, Talia shows everyone that it was the king's glass that was poisoned, not the wine within the bottle. Count Balsa tries to flee after realizing he has been tricked. But Talia stops him with his power, revealing himself in the process. As she continues to stare at Tuya, Princess Yumina becomes extremely agitated with his intelligence. Talia had tea with the king and his family after revealing the count's whereabouts. Yumina declares Talia to be her fiancée while they converse. As soon as Yumina's parents learn that their daughter is getting married, Talia spits out his drink. Talia tries to dissuade himself from the marriage by arguing that he is too young. However, the king and queen inform him that they will have to wait until they reach adulthood before being married. Talia accepts Yumina's proposal of marriage since he can live with the outcome. Following the meeting, the maker calls Talia to congratulate him on his recent engagement. With a few mumbled words, Talia ends the call. Talia announces his recent engagement to his folks in the following scene. Yumina urges the girls to join her group, so she can accompany them on hunting expeditions as she joins them. Yumina must be welcomed onto the squad. There is no other option. They bring Yumina along on their next guild task. After calling for several wolves, Yumina instructs them to go look for the Yetis in the forest. The wolves soon outrun the Yetis as they flee their hiding place. After waiting for the Yetis, Talia and his group utilize their magic powers to eliminate them all. Once their task is accomplished, Talia praises his girls for being the strongest and cutest girls he has ever seen. After a brief conversation, Talia and his group return to the city. Upon turning in the Yetis for evaluation and receiving their money, Talia makes the decision to make a covenant with a celestial creature. Like a snow tiger, he calls forth one and demonstrates his enormous magical power to it. The only option available to the snow tiger is to heed his master's summons. The snow tiger requests a name from Talia in order to finalize the agreement. Named Kohaku, Talia completes the transaction. Going on to the next section now. This time, Kohaku requests that Talia allow him to always be close to him. Kohaku turns himself into a white cat since he is too large to follow him. After spotting the adorable white cat, the ladies start to play with it. The fact that the ladies' next mission is to look into slime creatures has them a little nervous. According to legend, these slime monsters are highly capable of melting women's clothes and revealing various areas of their bodies to unscrupulous people. Tuya is happy to hear this, so he tells the females to have hope and embrace their new task wholeheartedly. With nothing else to go, the ladies carry on toward the slime monster's position. Talia and the girls meet their first slime monster when they arrive. They keep going within the structure, to the internal library, in an attempt to learn everything they can about the slime monsters. To avoid stepping on the slime molds, the girls take care to watch where they walk. As everything is going on, Talia and his beast companion Koku continue to repel the green slimes. On the way, they cross paths. They make every effort not to let the slimes get on them. Sadly, the ladies' chances were not in their favor, as each of them managed to trip and fall into the green slime. The green slime monsters pull off pieces of the ladies' clothing as they go about their business. With his gaze fixed on their ripped garments, Talia uses his gate magic to draw them back to him. The girls punch him out of embarrassment. Talia and the women tidy up before continuing their search for other slimes throughout the building. While traveling, they come upon several female mannequins with what appear to be moving breasts. It seems out their purpose was to imitate the breasts of a lady. The women advance deeper into the structure after taking down the slime monsters. There are more slime monsters in the slime researchers' room when they arrive there. But these ones change into fully formed humanoid ladies. As they get the building ready for cleansing, the ladies immediately cover Tuya's eyes. They complete their mission when dusk falls and light the entire building on fire. The following day, Talia gives Kohaku a tour of the town on foot. Yi is seen caring for a young child who appears to have lost her mother somewhere. Talia walks over to her and looks up the girl's mother on his smartphone's map. When he returns her to her mother, Talia uses his phone to explain the science or magic behind the search. He assures Yi that anything in the world can be found using the GPS locate on his phone. Yi gives it to him, asking him to look for her brother and likely discover what he's up to. After taking Yi to a restaurant, Talia locates her brother using the GPS location on his phone. He lets her know exactly what he's doing right then and there, and she's relieved to learn her brother is still alive. Talia returns to his room in the inn after lunch. Using some phone magic, he grants his camera the ability to look through walls. He aims the lens at the wall just in front of him. She notices Elsa getting dressed after changing into her underwear. Then Linza comes to see him to ask for some guidance. It seems that she's been experiencing difficulties deciphering new spells from her spell scroll, which is written in antiquated magic. She gets assistance from Talia, who crafts a show capable of deciphering old magic spells. Linza puts on the glasses and researches additional spells to strengthen her water spell. She finds the appropriate spell and goes to investigate it in the forest. After a few unsuccessful attempts at practicing, she takes a break and keeps trying until her mana runs out. She gains sufficient confidence to solve the spell on her own thanks to Talia's assistance in replenishing her mana. Linz considers her errors carefully and makes the necessary corrections the next time. It took her some time to get the hang of the bubble bomb water magic method. When they go on their next quest, she uses the water spell to help easily slay the monster. Elsa breaks her gauntlet on their last mission. Thus she goes inside the armory to buy it back after the mission. While returning, Talia purchases a pretty feminine clothing for Elsa and makes her wear it. Elsa puts on the garment, looking stunning, even though she believes it would not fit her. After returning home, they get a letter from the royal palace calling Talia in to take the oath of allegiance as a knight for his earlier actions in protecting the monarch. Yuminar responds that Talia is free to decline the offer when he asks. He would have to give a justification for doing so in a public setting though. Talia sighs, knowing he must make his way to the palace. Talia graciously declines the king's invitation to become a knight. Even now, the monarch rewards Talia for his assistance to the royal family with a home. When Talia and the women arrive at the mansion, they explore it. Talia extends an invitation for them to move into his mansion as soon as they arrive. The girls are overjoyed and really hope they won't be disturbing Talia and his future wife in their home. Like his family, Talia tells them he loves all four of the females in the same way. The women peruse the mansion's impressive chambers. Their butler, Liam's father, and a few other servants later show up to the mansion to take up their duties of maintaining its cleanliness. The servants gave their introductions and left. After a few hours, Talia receives a visit from Alfred and his daughter Sushi at his new residence. Alfred asks Talia for a favor while they eat lunch together. He and his troops wish to transport themselves to Miss Mead using Tuya's gate spell. Alfred requests that Talia go there first because he is unable to transfer himself to a location he has never been. In the following scene, Talia travels to the royal capital of Miss Mead with his people, traveling with some of the best fighters in the realm. Prior to setting out on their adventure, they all gather at the kingdom's outer gate. Talia plays board games with his girls to pass the time when they're bored. As dusk falls, they build a bonfire and Talia reads them a tale. Olga feels some robbers waiting to ambush them and steal their belongings as he concludes his tale. Taking out his phone, Talia marks every one of them and performs his spell of paralysis to eliminate every last bandit hidden among the trees. When they've gathered everyone, they discuss what to do about the bandits. Talia and his companion observe a certain knight named Night Lion and Olga having a romantic relationship while they converse. Lion seems to have feelings for her, but was afraid to tell her. In order to help Lion get with Olga before they reach the capital, Talia and the girls make the decision. Next day, the group stops over in a tiny village. Arma, Yumina, and Tuya see Lion looking over some gifts. They come up to him and inquire as to whom he was purchasing the memento for. Claiming it's for his mother, the Lion lies to them. Talia will not compromise his morals. They depart after Arma informs Lion in a chic manner about her sister's preferences. Before they can disappear from view, they spy on Leon and discover that he is purchasing the exact same item. Afterwards, Talia returns to their carts. Talia feels uneasy, they're almost as if someone is following them. In an attempt to locate them, he uses magic. The individual hides his aura, nevertheless. They soon locate Olga, who is wearing the hairpiece that Lion had previously given her. While traveling to the capital, they come upon something large in the middle of the jungle. It turned out that the town of Elba was being attacked by a rogue dragon. In a hurry, Talia and his people head to the town to defend it from the dragons. Upon arrival, Talia and his beast are insulted by the dragon. Talia mutilates it and amputates its wings as a kind of punishment. Spitting flames all around it, the dragon just won't stop. After some time, the other girls show up and assist Talia in completely taking down the dragon. Before they can rejoice, a red dragon that guards the holy territory appears to seize his rebellious companion. He bends down and offers a heartfelt apology for his comrade's actions after realizing the extent of Talia's strength. Everything returns to normal, and Talia enjoys stretching out on his fiancée's legs. The girls placed a wager on him while he was asleep. He discovers when he wakes up the following morning. Talia just watches the ladies do their thing, despite the fact that he's absolutely blue in the face of it. After awakening after a few hours, Talia and the women start to reconstruct the town. The previous night, the rogue dragon destroyed. In order to help the people rebuild their hamlet as quickly as possible, they make sure to chop off some bits of the dragon they slayed and give them to them. Tuya's willingness to assist the town astounds Leon and his buddy, the Miss Midnights, even though there's no need to. Talia receives a present from the village elder that afternoon in appreciation for his tremendous service to the community. One of the dragon's teeth. Just as Talia is ready to reject it, he considers how beneficial the fang would be for customizing his weapon. After accepting the gift, Talia travels to the kingdom of Miss Maid with his people. They reach Miss Maid, the capital of the kingdom, before dusk. The king welcomes them with open arms and gives Talia praise for his assistance in bringing down the renegade dragon and assisting one of his villages. The Miss Mead kingdom's monarch learns that Belfast, Tuya's kingdom, wants to join forces with the Miss Mead kingdom after the required introductions. After receiving the envoy from Belfast's monarch, the king suggests a duel between Tuya, the dragon slayer, and himself. As it happens, Miss Mead's king is among those who, through engaging in combat, learn to value the power of others. Talia readies himself for battle against the Miss Mead king. Talia employs Slip, his null magic, to start the battle. When the king appears to be too fast for Talia at one point in the match, he uses his null magic spell Axel to attack Talia. Talia dodges the attack and uses the same Axel spell to give himself a massive speed boost. Both parties immediately disappear as they move at the speed of light. The king's goal is to make the other guy trip and fall, ending the matchup. Clearly, he can't have that, so he demands a rematch this time. All that was seen were the brief bursts of sound from their swords, striking one another. Talia ultimately triumphs by subduing the monarch. That evening, Talia and his people are invited to a royal feast that is held in their honor. There, Talia pulls out his smartphone to snap photos of the stunning women dressed in their exquisite outfits. His cell phone fascinates the monarch, who wants him to snap shots for him as well. As a result, Talia becomes extremely exhausted. During a break outside the hallway, he discovers a moving teddy bear and pursues it into a shadowy chamber. He discovers Lean, a 6'0" fairy folk elder, sitting on a chair on the other side of the room. Lean demonstrates the null magic spell software she used to make the teddy move after the required introductions. It seems that the program spell can be used to give commands to inanimate objects and force them to obey through to the end. Lean is impressed by Talia as soon as she casts the magic. Talia runs away as she wants him to be her apprentice. He had the notion to develop his new weapon using a program while lying in bed that night. He takes the dragon's fangs from Eld Village the following day and goes into the woods with Lindsay and Yumina. There he creates a gun with a modeling magic and some bullets from the fang, then uses a program spell to teach the gun how to auto-reload. He makes a few adjustments to improve the gun's accuracy after his initial shots are off balance. Lindsay and Yumina request a firearm. They are shown an online catalog by Talia, who instructs them to select their favorite. Then he makes more modifications to his rifle so that he can switch it into a sword whenever he pleases. Talia and the women return to town after their artistic outing in the woods. They search the town for a restaurant and get ready to eat some curia, the dish that Miss Med has always made. But Talia notices two persons observing them before they enter. He outperforms the spies by coordinating with his beast. They scramble as soon as they see him. Talia surpasses others by exceeding himself. He grips one of his pursuers' chests by mistake after knocking them out. He discovers that ladies have been pursuing them. Talia is informed by the ladies that they were ordered to accompany them at all times by the king. Talia lets them go because he understands. After returning to the eatery, he orders the hot curry meal. The King of Belfast and Alfred are transported to Miss Mead's palace by Talia, using the gate magic the following day. Lean makes a vow in the last scene to see her pupil, Charlotte, in Belfast shortly. After finishing his work at Miss Mead, Talia teleports the girls and himself back to his mansion in Belfast. They are being greeted warmly at the mansion by Lame and the other servants. Yumina presents her attendants with some exquisite mementos from the Miss Mead realm. After lying in bed for several days, Talia cuddles up to his beast and drifts off to sleep. He gets up late at night in order to get a bath. Then he goes to the changing room and gets outside to take a bath. He gets reprimanded for discovering the women in their panties. Talia's daughters make sure he never does something like that in his life again. Talia walks outdoors to resume his spell practice after receiving his reprimand. In a little while, Alfred comes to visit him. When he asks Talia what he was doing, the latter responds that he was attempting to build a bicycle. Alfred praises Talia for helping with the misconceived situation and waits for Talia to finish the bicycle in time so he can ride it, as it's obvious that he hasn't seen a bicycle in his life. Talia finishes riding his first bicycle in 30 minutes. When Alfred tries riding a bike for the first time, he stumbles and falls several times. The women soon discover the disturbance outdoors in the yard. When they see the Duke of the Kingdom riding a bike, they choose to follow him and pick up some tips. The women make riding bikes into a competition in a matter of hours. In an attempt to outpace her sister on the bike, Elsa becomes fiercely competitive with the other riders. Eventually, they overtake the Duke and engage in a race. Until something terrible happens, Talia just observes them all. Following an enjoyable ride that included several bike falls, Alfred begs Talia to build one more bicycle. Talia enters the town to obtain further supply of materials. While traveling there, he comes upon a young woman being robbed in an alleyway. Talia, of course, comes to her aid and uses his gun to take out the crooks. In addition to asking if he had any food, the woman praises him for saving her. It transpires that she was about to face consequences for pickpocketing from the thieves. Rennie, the girl, is taken by Talia to an outdoor bench and purchases some snacks for her. The impoverished girl appears to be an orphan with nowhere else to sleep but on the streets. Talia invites her to come work in his estate in order to pay her. Thanking him for the request, Ren follows him back to the mansion. Ren transforms into a maid there and works as Tuya's servant. So that she can begin learning how to be a maid, the other maids enter and take her away. Talia realizes he should have gotten the bike parts sooner, so he returns to town with the women in tow. There, they locate Arma and go shopping with her. They discover Lion strolling alongside Arma's sister Olga. They spy on the two by trailing after them. Talia and the women discover, as they observe from the corners, how bashful Lion was to clasp Olga's hands. The women question Talia why males act so hesitant around them. Talia just continues to keep an eye on Lion and Olga, while gently ignoring them. To spy on them, they track them to a restaurant. With his X-ray cameras, Talia watches the two while pulling out his phone. Olga's face lights up red, as if she's having a great time. Olga exits the restaurant following their date. Arma hastily departs to greet her sister. She does, however, run into Miss Mead's king. Joining the teenagers, Miss Mead's king spies on Olga and Lion. The king of Miss Mead is disgusted by Lion's persistent reluctance to touch Olga. Soon after, some thieves target the nearby stalls. The Lion confronts and challenges the scoundrels. The Lion scares Talia and the king so much that they disguise themselves to avoid being discovered. Sadly for them, Lion recognizes them through their masks and recognizes them. When Talia grows weary of seeing them, he demands that Lion immediately reveal his affections for Olga. Fortunately, Olga decides to go out with him since she has similar feelings. Returning to his mansion after their victory, Talia discovers Lean and Charlotte, her trainee. Talia queries her purpose for being here. Lean informs him that her purpose for visiting is to inquire about the red orb monster that he vanquished a few weeks ago. According to her narrative, the red orb belonged to mystical creatures known as words that had translucent bodies. Talia assures her that he will watch out for one. Lean conveys the terrible news to Talia and his group. As it happens, she will be spending some time in Belfast. She begs Talia to do her the favor of showing her around an old ruin in Ye's native Eshin. In order to locate the location, Lean instructs Talia to utilize the recall magic to locate a recollection of Eshin within Ye's mind. Approaching Yi, Talia utilizes recall to locate the streets in Eshin. When the ceremony is over, Lean asks him to open the gate leading there. Lean and the girls are transported by Talia to the ruins in Eshin by opening a gate. Talia transports the women and himself to Eshin, where he guides them to Yi's hometown, the Edo. Yi gives her listeners an explanation of her country's culture as they stroll through the gloomy town. Elsa and Linza discover that Eshin and Belfast have somewhat different lifestyles. Later on, Yi takes her people to the town to live with her father. When she arrives, she asks her mother where her father is since she can tell she's frightened. Yes, mother tells her that her father's brother and the other strong men in the town left to oppose the army of the Taekta clan a few days ago. Yi becomes extremely concerned and asks her mother about the war. Sadly, Talia and the others offered to assist the Edians in fighting the Taekta clan. Talia uses a gate spell to teleport himself and the girls to a location in the woods close to the Edo fortress. Yi becomes agitated and asks Talia to take her to her brother. Talia, however, knows there is danger ahead and goes to the fortress first. Yi's brother Jitaro and a few other troops confront Tuya as soon as they arrive, inquiring about his origins and identity. The others are teleported into the fortress by Talia, who identifies himself as Ye's buddy. Ye and her brother get back in touch soon, expressing gratitude to Talia for his assistance. Jitaro informs his sister that their father is doing a great job of defending the king. All of Ito's injured warriors are healed by Talia using his light magic. Then he questions Yutaro about the Taikta force besieging their outlying stronghold. As the Taikta army has turned into zombies, Jutaro informs him that his troops are having difficulties eliminating them. Jutaro also informs Talia that they have discovered the Oni masks on the zombie army's faces must be broken in order to defeat it. Talia dispatches all of the Taikta zombies in front of the fortress rather quickly by using the light spell and a sparkling javelin. With a yell of victory, the Edians gave thanks to Tuya, their savior. Tokugawa's chief, Isha, soon arrives to personally thank Talia and his team for their assistance with the zombie army. After that, they talk business. The Taikta clan's true head, Shinjin, had, as it turned out, already passed away. His dark magic strategist was in charge of the zombie army that had earlier attacked them. Isha informs Talia that they would continue to look into the report, but they haven't confirmed its veracity yet. General Kusaka's warrior Tsubaki, one of the 4 Taikta generals, shows up at that moment bearing a covert letter from her master. In the letter, Isha was pleaded with to assist in freeing the other 3 generals who had been taken prisoner deep into Taiktan land. Talia chooses to quietly enter the base before making his attack. He asks the fairy Lean if she can make them temporarily invisible so they can get there without setting off any alarms. Talia chooses his followers carefully and reads Tsubaki's thoughts to determine their direction. That evening, Talia teleports to a location just outside the Takedan borders. He tries teleporting into enemy territory after Lean makes him invisible. But he's stopped short since the barrier that was put up keeps him out. Lean plays with Tsubaki's boobies in a very dirty manner. Given their invisibility, she accuses Tuya of the crime. Tsubaki was amused as well as ashamed, and she moaned. Cutting right to the chase, Talia leads his 3-man team into the Takedan dungeon. He breaks the talismans that are keeping Taikta's barrier in place and releases all 3 of the captured generals. Once they've all been destroyed, Talia eliminates the last remaining masked soldiers in the area and teleports them all to the dark strategist, who is actually waiting for them. When the strategist arrives, he uses Oyakata, their deceased friend, against them. After taking him out, Talia confronts the adversary. The strategist claims to have all the power in the world as he displays the red orb in his eyes. Talia retrieves the orb and performs the apport spell to destroy it. Nearly right away, the strategist dies the following day, his body crumbling to dust. Talia learns of the Naya ruins from Isha, are found beneath the sea. In addition, he says he still recalls being on an island close to the ruins. After retrieving the island's location from Aisha's head using recall, Talia uses Gate to teleport the women and himself to the precise beach that is closest to the ruins. Talia and the women dash to the shore to take advantage of its coolness. As they don't have any bathing suits, they beg Talia to return them all to Belfast. In order to fulfill their wish, Talia grants it by teleporting them back to Belfast in order to purchase swimwear. To escape their demanding responsibilities, they head back to the beach accompanied by the king, the duke, and a few other servants. Everyone is now wearing their swimsuits, so Talia makes some tents for the women to change into. To rejoin the others, they return to the shore. With their bodies in their swimsuits, the women turn to face Talia in an attempt to get his approval. The women go for a swim in the ocean following a few awkward exchanges with Tuya. Talia is drawn to the women's velvety, plump chests since there are so many of them. Sushi and Arma soon follow the women into the ocean to play beach ball. Talia becomes absorbed in his girls in the water, losing sight of Cecil who is trailing him. His eyes drop to her chest when he turns to look back. Talia lets Cecile swim with the girls after giving himself a close-up look at objects he might never touch. Talia follows the sound of guys yelling that she hears from elsewhere. It appears that the monarch and his sibling were leading separate lives. He returns to his tent and settles in. Yumina walks up to him, wearing a stylish swimwear, and invites him to get into the ocean with her. Talia, on the other hand, says he would rather look for the ruins than go with her. Yumina nods and moves on. At that moment, Lin runs into Talia and starts teasing him again. After enjoying herself to the fullest, she informs Talia that they must return to exploring the ruins. Talia chooses to investigate on his own, since Lin is unable to swim. He dives into the water, but his breathing is too short. Thank goodness his beast Kohaku was there to save him from drowning. When Talia and Lin regain consciousness, they ask Charlotte whether she is aware of a spell that might cause someone to breathe underwater. Charlotte could not think of a spell that could accomplish it. Kohaku is suddenly reminded of the Black Monarch's monsters. Without delay, Talia and Kohaku begin calling forth the creatures. The great beasts of the Black Monarch are called to their world by a summoning spell they cast into the ground. Upon their arrival, the beasts remember their former companion and inquire about his master. When they find out that Talia is Kohaku's master, they challenge him to a duel to see how strong he is. They will make an agreement with Talia if he prevails. Pulling out his gun, Talia programs one of the bullets to activate a slip spell that lasts forever. The Black Monarch beasts eventually give up after stumbling and falling repeatedly. Meanwhile, the women are playing volleyball a short distance from Tuya. Linz pulls off her chest cloth after a brilliant play. In a hurry, she puts it on before Talia notices it falling. After hearing Talia's request, the Black Monarch beasts give themselves up to him a few hours into the day, exhausted and casting an enchantment that protects them from the elements. As he makes his way to the ocean, Talia wraps himself in the protective bubble. When Talia is asked to select his favorite woman among the 4 women who are lining up, he becomes agitated and selects Sushi. Though disappointed, the girls accept it and go out to play with him in the evening. As soon as Talia reaches the ocean floor, he begins to move like he is on land. He goes inside the ruins and opens a magical circle. A teleportation system that transports Talia to a floating island is activated by the mechanism. Francesca, a humanoid robot, arrives at the location and approaches him bare-chested. She welcomes Talia to the 5-year-old aerial garden and gives her introduction. Why isn't Francesca wearing anything under her waist, Talia wonders. That's how her master programmed her, Cheska tells him. She is asked if she could put something on by Talia. Cheska grabs and puts on a skirt. Then Talia inquires about the location as a whole. It turns out that the floating island was constructed thousands of years ago by a professor and is known as the Garden of Babylon. It is mentioned by Cheska that she is an android robot designed to tend to the garden while her master is away. After hearing the explanation, Cheska becomes very lustful and persistently begs Talia to touch her in her personal space. Talia naturally declines to touch the oddball. Naturally, Tuya is who Talia introduces himself as. Talia is informed by Cheska that Professor Babylon, a strong mage skilled in all elemental magic, fashioned the island 5,000 years ago. She gave Cheska responsibility for the garden's upkeep until a guest showed up and asserted ownership of the space. He must take charge because Tuya is the only guest the garden has had in the previous 5,000 years. Cheska explains her willingness to give it to him. She would have rejected Talia, it seems, if they had engaged in sexual activity right away. Still, he is entitled to inherit the garden because he refrained from giving in to his desires. Sweating, Talia wonders who made Cheska. Cecile plays with the other women while they search for crabs and other small crustaceans on the beach. They all start to worry about Talia and question whether he's okay at one point. And speaking of the devil, Talia shows up at that precise moment, walking them all to the garden, enter the floating island, and cast a spell. Telling all the girls that her devoted master and husband Tuya now owns the floating island is Cheska's latest move. Tuya is forced to give an explanation by the 4 girls. The situation gets worse when Cheska tells the girls that Tuya saw her in her underwear. So Linda, who is the bashful one, begins questioning Talia while he is seated. Asserting his defense, Lin advises Linz not to pass too much judgment on Talia. He is not required to follow the ladies' feelings because he most likely has no idea how they feel about him. When Linz realizes this, she stops mistreating Tuya. Later on, Yi, Linz, Yumina, and Elsa stroll through a portion of the garden together. Yumina halts them and brings up a conversation they had back at the mansion. It turns out that Yumina is aware of the other three women's feelings for Tuya. She suggests that the four of them get married to Taoya right away after admitting their feelings to him. The women blush and turn red-faced with embarrassment as they become extremely agitated. They have to ask Taoya for his hand in marriage and confess their feelings to him today, Yumina says. He's been rizzed by Tuya. Already, the three women were envisioning Taoya marrying each of them. They decide to admit their guilt and carry on walking. Lean and Taoya are having fun in the garden in the interim. The professor's remaining floating islands are something Cheska tells Taoya and Lean about during her free time. Lean develops an interest in the floating library and wants to find out the secrets of the professor. When the other women arrive, they listen to Cheska's discussion about the other islands. Lean inquires as to whether Cheska could make contact with her other sisters. Sadly, Cheska claims that her ties to the other islands have been severed. Thus, locating the other Babylon's teleportation circles is the only way to locate them. Cheska makes the decision to leave the garden and go with her new owner. When she leaves the garden, Taoya worries. But once he completes his registration, Cheska assures him that they will have control over the garden, so he need not worry. How will they get it? Taoya asks Cheska. In front of everyone, she gives him a kiss. Tuya's saliva is collected by Cheska during their kiss and is stored as part of his genetic makeup. After finishing, Linza musters the bravery to approach Taoya and share her feelings with him before giving him a kiss. To be set free, all Elsa and Yi need to do is confess their feelings to Tuya. Cheska explores the rest of the garden before heading home with Taoya and the other ladies. After dressing to fit in with the servants, she joins Lane to start her maid training. After leaving the garden, Taoya goes to his room to reflect on his conversation with Linza. Yumina visits him to chat before he goes to sleep. When she enters his room, Taoya asks her why she came. Yumina lashes out at Taoya right away, telling him how much she hates him for kissing Cheska and Linza without any hesitation. She's simply jealous that Taoya hasn't given her a kiss yet. Taoya finds it surprising that Linza's confession doesn't have an impact on her. Yumina informs him that she was the one who genuinely pushed Linza to tell him how she felt. He hasn't kissed her, which is the only thing that has made her upset with him. Taoya hugs Yumina to him and gives her a gentle kiss as a way of making up for what happened. She inquires about his opinion of Linz after they kiss. Taoya claims that despite not being in love, he still likes and values Linz. Linz enters the room almost immediately. It turns out she has been rendered invisible and has been keeping watch over them the entire time. When he gets close to her, Taoya appropriately admits his feelings. Linz gives him a hug and says, "Thank you for being honest with her." Yumina hugs her soon-to-be husband as well. They ask Taoya to kiss them before they head out. Before falling asleep, Taoya gives them a forehead kiss. The following morning, Elsa wakes Taoya and leads him outside to the yard so they can meet Yi and her. Taoya inquires of the women what their goals are. Taoya gets an order to fight Elsa and Yi right there. Should they triumph, Taoya would be obliged to grant their wish. But if he prevails, they would concede and keep their feelings for Taoya bottled up. Before the battle, they also forbid Taoya from casting any spells. In the opening exchange of blows, Taoya gains the advantage. Still, the women corner him and take his life. Elsa and Ye both confess their feelings to Taoya when he wakes up. As Yumina and Linza join them in the courtyard, they request that Taoya make a choice. Begging for more time, Taoya returns to the floating garden to reflect. He is joined by Cheska, with whom she converses. She tells him that the professor has given her a message for him. Pulling a USB cord out of her arms, she responds to Taoya's request to show him the message. After inserting the cord into his phone, Taoya turns on the message. The professor appears as a hologram on his phone. She informs him of her ability to look ahead several millennia. She learned of the phrase dragons, a group of creatures bent on eradicating all life from the planet, in one of her visions. Talia asks where they were now, and the professor replies that the phrases just vanished. Is she aware of his plans with the four girls? Talia inquires. The professor declines to share with him. She ends the message by leaving him to ponder over potential outcomes. Upon getting the message, Talia uses teleportation to travel to the heavens and encounter the Creator. Seeing his creation again makes the Maker very happy. Regarding his problem with the women, Talia requests some guidance. The Queen of Love is called upon by the Maker to provide Talia with the best counsel she can. The Queen of Love, upon hearing the situation, advises him to become a little more self-centered and requests that the four of them allow him some time to grow up and mature into a man that they will all adore and treasure. They're still, at most, 16. I had not stopped schooling when I was their age. Nevertheless, Talia returns to his mansion and requests that the women wait for him to become a true man before they get married. Every woman decides to wait for Tuya. Talia would have to give each of them a forehead kiss to seal their meeting before departing. Elsa initiates contact first and ultimately strikes him in the stomach. Lean laughs heartily to himself outside the building with a couple of other servants about what's going on inside the room. Talia leads his ladies on their upcoming mission. They need to take the control orbs back to the guild and defeat the mithril golems this time. When Ye tries to slay them with her sword, it breaks. After realizing their strength, Talia teleports them into the sky and lets them descend to the ground freely. The golems' bodies break and become more susceptible, so this plan works. After that, Talia and the women use the most powerful magic spells in their collection to defeat the mithril golems. Talia teleports his girls back home after obtaining the golem orbs. Talia greets Renee, the orphan he previously saved, with great affection. She asks Talia where Cheska is after noticing someone is missing. Abruptly recalling that he left her in the garden, Talia returns to get her. When they return, Cheska offers tea to Lean and Talia. With regret, Talia says she wants to make things right. To help her forget about his transgressions, Cheska orders him to bring her some sensual underwear. As it happens, she was joking around. Cheska quickly departs, allowing Talia to speak with Lean. Talia hears Lean's tell her that she intends to visit the other floating islands that Professor Babylon created. Tuya offers assistance, having already given up on finding them. He gets a call from the Maker at that exact moment. Talia is able to teleport into the sky. The Maker gave him a call to inquire about his life's progress. The Maker is informed by Talia that everything is going well, even better than in his previous life. He is teased about his recent engagement to his 4 fiancées by the Queen of Love, who pays him a visit. Meanwhile, the women can be seen in the mansion having a bath. Gazing at the engagement ring Talia purchased and gifted to each of them, Yumina and the girls are enthralled. They are grateful that Talia has infused the ring with some beneficial magic spells to keep the girls out of trouble. Yumina tells them about her concerns while they blush from the rings. She worries that because Talia is such a good person, eventually another woman may take advantage of that and make Talia turn bad. They all agree to do everything in their power to help Talia. Yi and Talia head into town to get supplies in the following scene. Yi starts to feel uneasy as they peruse the stores, so she asks Talia to walk hand in hand. Talia grants her request and gives her a firm grasp before they go shopping together. Later on in the day, Yumina and Talia visit the king in his palace to make their engagement official. Belfast's king becomes ecstatic and requests that Talia get married as soon as possible in order to have grandchildren. But the queen warns Talia that not everyone will think well of him, so when the time comes, he should be prepared to defend Yumina. In order to greet her older sister, Yumina's younger sister requests to participate in the conversation. Upon returning home, Talia asks Yumina if she thinks he will one day rule as king when they get married. Yumina tells him not to stress over anything similar for the time being. In an attempt to win people over, Talia starts concentrating on achieving a goal. In order to achieve this, He goes to the nearby inn and constructs a hot spring for both sexes in order to draw in more business. He tests it by bringing his family and a few elderly folks to feel the springs. Before long, the men are having fun on their side, and the women are on the side of the latter. Yumina presses the women to discuss the moment they realized they were in love with Tuya as she and the girls undress. The women describe their initial feelings for Tuya, complete with awkward expressions on their faces. At the end, everyone agrees that Tuya is the man of their dreams, with Yumina going last. They laugh over their emotions as Cheska, who was outside having a bath, climbs the fence above them to reach Tuya's side. Fortunately, she is startled and thrown back to the women's area by the paralyzing spell atop the fence. Enter the men's side of the hot springs by leaning in. She found the next Babylon floating island, and she told Tuya so. Talia and the women journey towards the east of Miss Mead, into the Rabbi Desert, in search of the remnants of Babylon's second floating island. Talia simply wants them to find the island and return home as soon as possible, and she appears unconcerned about finding it. He acknowledges, however, that should the monsters of the fray return to Earth during his lifetime, they might require the might of the second Babylon. Peering into the desert, they see a UFO attacking a group of people on the sand. In order to assist them, Talia and the others swiftly abandon their journey. By facing the UFO object, they give the people below enough time to get away from its grasp. The object proves to be too powerful for Tuya and his girls to keep using magic attacks against it. That's when Tuya's old friend End makes an unexpected appearance. Following the obligatory greetings, he boards the UFO and blows it up. Surprised, Tuya asks him how he could have destroyed something like that, and tells him that he struck it using a magical frequency that was close to its own. End goes on to say that the UFO most likely entered Tuya's reality by slippage from another universe, and that the multi-layered web that kept the world apart was beginning to loosen up. Once Enda has completed his explanation, he quickly leaves. The adventurers are given water by Talia and his ladies to relieve their thirst. Their leader, Rebecca, explains that she was trying to find better pastures for some girls she and her partner had rescued from their slave masters. Talia inquires about their desired destination. Rebecca informs him that before they can be fully free, the girls' enslavement collars must be taken off. With a smile, Talia casts the abort spell, removing the slave girls' collars. The girls are told to follow Yumina to Belfast in order to earn a living. Talia teleports them to Belfast after they all agree. Upon returning home, Lean inquires with Talia regarding Enda. It turns out that while Talia was out purchasing the engagement rings, he ran into Enda. When Ender ran out of old coinage, he had helped him pay for his belongings. Lean tells Talia to proceed with extreme caution after growing extremely suspicious of the guy. The girls ask Talia to clarify what they meant to attack earlier. They learn about the Fraza's past and their connection to Earth from Talia. In addition, he suggests that the phrase they had earlier that day fought might have come from a different planet. Talia queries Cheska as to whether the professor created anything to combat the phrase monsters. He's told there are such things by Cheska. The next Babylon, though, is where they are kept after that. When Talia gets really excited, he teleports the women and himself to the Rabbi Desert right away. Talia is able to enter the ruin first, because Lean uses magic to reveal the invisible barrier surrounding it. Once inside, Talia finds the magic circle and uses it to activate the teleportation device. He meets Rosetta, the Guardian, after teleporting to the next floating Babylon island, the Workshop Island. Before he can seize control of Workshop Island, Rosetta stops him in his tracks and demands some sort of confirmation. Talia tells her he's already conquered Cheska's Garden Island. Rosetta tells him with a smile that since he has experience, things will be much easier. Rosetta gives Talia his test, instructing him to guess the colors of the underwear without getting up from his current location. Utilizing his long sense spell, Talia manipulates his vision beneath her skirt. He informs her when he discovers that she was not wearing any undergarments. He is named the new master of the workshop island by Rosetta, who validates his response. She completes his registration and gives him the same kiss as Cheska did. Talia investigates the workshop following the horrifying processing. He finds out a lot of fascinating information about this island. Rosette shows him a white room where an engineer can tap a few buttons to manufacture anything they want. To give it a try, Talia asks Rosette to make a duplicate of his gun out of mineral material and uses the copy technique to make a gun that looks like that. She is asked by Talia if she is able to make the frame gears and apparatus. Rosette counters that she can't because she doesn't have the blueprints. The others are then brought to the workshop island by Talia using gate. He requests that Rosetta and Cheska combine their two islands. Cheska and Rosetta accepted Toya's suggestion and started in the direction of Belfat. Talia tells Rebecca they can stay at the mansion until they find suitable jobs in the town when they return to it. Talia's generosity is appreciated by Rebecca and her companion. A few days later, Talia pays Rebecca and the girls a visit at their new place of employment. Since he recently completed building his library throughout the town, he permits them to work in the cafe. He is met with friendly greetings and invited to join them for a drink. Talia considers the level of success his bicycle business has achieved. The bicycles would be mass-produced in the Rosetta's Island workshop and sold for a premium. Despite his grandfather's ability to use no magic, one of the freed slaves bemoans Talia's lack of magic aptitude. Talia encourages the little guy to persevere and not give up. His magical abilities will manifest eventually. Talia and Yumina go to the guild after his visit to the library to sign up for any available quests. When he arrives, the attendant asks him if he could help her with a book from his library about the Order of Rose after recognizing him. As they head back, Yumina gives Talia as much information as she can about the Order of Rose and introduces her to Reine Riri Refris, the princess of the Refris Imperium and the author of the series. Talia chooses not to get the book until after learning everything there is to know about the author and going to destroy the bloody crab in the desert. In a matter of minutes, he transports Yumina directly to the forest and destroys it. Returning the crab to the guild, they claim their rewards. Yumina now has the same guild rank as Tuya after having her rank upgraded. Once he receives his reward, Talia asks the guild attendant to make a list of all the books she believes she and her co-workers would enjoy reading so he can borrow them for his library. He has all the bills. The woman hands Tuya a piece of paper with more than 20 books written on it. Giving the list to the clerk, Talia visits a bookstore. Even so, searching through the massive catalog for all those books takes several hours. Talia finds every one of them. He hears a customer yelling because the well-known book for women, Rose Magi, is out of stock just as he is ready to cash in and head out to build his own library. She asks Talia if she may purchase the final book after learning that he purchased the previous one. She suggests a deal with Talia after he declines to release the book on her behalf. She will give him an autograph if he can free the Rose Magi for her. She seems to Talia like just another random person attempting to con him. He listens to her, though, and discovers that she is, in fact, the true princess Real Refreeze. He informs her about Yumina after becoming repulsed by her rustic ways. Real remains silent upon learning that Talia is Yumina's fiancée. Talia prints off a second copy of the Rose Magi at the workshop. Afterwards, he gets the books to Real's library and gives it to him. As they pick up their books and head out, the ladies are overjoyed to have received assistance. Turning to face the young child who had been whining earlier, Talia asks him what he wants. The boy explains to him that he wants to grow extremely strong in order to defend a very special someone. The young child is speaking and looking at one of the freed slave girls who works at the desk across from him. Talia determines she's the one he wants to protect after observing a certain chemistry between them. He brings the young child to the palace and requests that the head of the knights there instruct him. After their meeting, he brings Linza to the Silvermoon Hot Springs for a cooling dip before calling it a day. He is much appreciated by the inn's owners for his assistance with the hot springs. Talia gets Linz a lovely dress after she takes a hot bath. When she puts it on, she looks sensational. With the outfit and trips, Linz becomes extremely anxious. Tuya is there to apprehend her. He makes sure to compliment her on how stunning the ensemble looks on her. A positive note concludes the day. Riri released her next series a few days later. After reading the first volume, Talia discovers that the plot resembles his in some way. He becomes understandably upset about the situation and promises to deal with her the next time he sees her. Talia discovers Lindsay reading once more in the opening scene. He suggests that she refrain from overreading and take breaks as needed. Lindsay is grateful for her fiancé's kind remarks and hands over the list of books the library requires to him. Once Talia has the list, he goes to the Empire to obtain the books. Upon arriving, Talia discovers that the entire Empire has collapsed. Seeking answers to the mysteries surrounding the Empire grounds, he dashes towards the palace. He discovers the army assaulting a local policeman en route to his destination. He discovers that the army general might be planning an empire-wide coup after saving the police officer. Somewhere nearby, he hears a woman screaming as he dashes to the palace. When he hears the scream, he finds the room and races inside to save the emperor's daughter from certain death. His stunning eyes make Lucia, the emperor's daughter, fall in love with him right away. Carol, the guard assigned to her detail, soon stops by and expresses gratitude to Talia for saving the daughter. Talia informs them that in order to purchase some items for his store, he traveled to the Empire via teleportation magic. When Carol learns of this, she begs him to teleport to the Emperor's quarters with them so she can visit him. Upon arrival, they discover Army General Bazor positioned above the Emperor's unconscious corpse. Talia declares his identity, his place of origin, and his demand that the attacker of the Emperor provide an explanation. According to Bazor, the Emperor became critically ill and was unable to continue ruling. Knowing that to be untrue, Talia demands an actual explanation. The general informs him that he intends to launch an offensive against Belfast, Missmead, and Refries, the three allies. Talia challenges him to do so and points out the combined might of the three countries. But Bazar was holding something special. He demonstrates the source of his power by calling forth the demonic beast he has been allying with for the previous 20 years using magic. Bazar appeared to have two bracelets on both hands, one for warding off magical attacks and the other for warding off physical ones. Magic attacks could also be negated by the beast. Talia cannot simply charge into this battle. He withdraws and sends Carol, Lucia, the Emperor, and himself back to his Belfast estate. For his fiancés, Talia recounts his experience at the Empire. Everyone questions how they could defeat someone with such strength. They shouldn't worry, says Talia, because he has a plan to overthrow the Emperor. Talia introduces Lucia to his fiancés following their brief meeting. Lucia frowns when Yumina introduces herself as Tuya's fiancée. Yumina notices her response and confronts her after Tuya leaves. Talia tells the king of Belfast about the state of affairs in the Empire and asks to meet with him. The king jokes that Talia will inherit the throne after him before they get down to any serious business. Talia, who aspires to be king, but never does, almost pees his pants. After learning of Tuya's strategy for taking down Bazor, the king gives him the all-clear. Arriving at the workshop, Talia speaks with Rosetta regarding Bazor's armaments. Rosetta tells him that she can recall having artifacts in the workshop. Somewhere along the way, they most likely lost their way or fell. Returning to his mansion, Talia discovers the Emperor is awake. Everyone gathers around the Emperor to talk about taking down the general. Lucia asks Talia to use his magic spells to help her locate her brother while they are talking. Talia obtains a photo of her brother by using recall on Lucia. Once Talia gets a picture of her brother, she uses his smartphone to track him down and identify him. The Emperor recalls that location as General Romeo's estate. Thank God, the Imperial Prince is not in danger. On to the current mission's next task. Talia orders the emperor to leave it to him and the girls to defeat Bezor. Talia calls forth his creatures and brings them to the empire the following day so they can battle the general. Tuya confronts Bazar's magical, demonic beast, while the ladies and beasts tend to the guards. Unexpectedly, he immobilizes Bazar's beast, the demon lord, using Axel and the spell gravity, which makes things heavier. He then confronts Bazar and imprisons him in a cell made of rotting slime with tempered glass. Bazar collapses from exhaustion. In the most hilarious way possible, Tuya had just defeated the general. Returning to its kingdom, the empire addresses its subjects in a formal manner. The imperial prince returns to his family, and Tuya sees his girls again. Lucia joins them and discovers the joys of being Tuya's fiancée. One day, the emperor formally thanks Talia for his assistance in overthrowing Bear by inviting him to lunch. Talia frowns as he considers how to reject the engagement. He decides to betroth Lucia to him as a thank you for his assistance. On his behalf, Mina accepts the proposal, though, speaking for him. The only option left to Talia is to welcome his new fiancée into his family. There's no denying that man's riz is infectious. That is how Talia acquired his fifth spouse. The other women are happy to have another woman join them. However, Tuya is not feeling very happy because he now has too many hotties on his hands. For whatever reason, he converses briefly with the kings and learns about the territories the emperor is giving him. Talia will thus be named ruler of the new kingdom and will receive some land as a result. Talia will look respectable and have some status if he marries Yumina and the others in this way. Returning to his palace, Talia accepts the invitation to assume the throne. His wives celebrate their husband's recent successes. They ask him what he intends to call his new realm. The ladies like that Talia has named his new kingdom Brunhild. Is it wise to teleport the entire mansion to the new kingdom? Talia wonders. But the girls advise him to move out of the mansion so Belfast can serve as their operational center. As they converse, Lucia shows up wearing her new outfit and attends the family gathering. She proposes that in order for Talia to truly rule the area, they construct a castle there. The others, including Talia, concur. In the scene that follows, they go to the workshop of Babylon and collaborate with Rosetta on constructing the new castle. Rosetta lists every item they would require to construct a brand new castle. Until Talia grows weary, the list never ends. They steal supplies from an abandoned castle they remember from a vanished kingdom. Talia uses some modeling magic and the materials they looted to construct his castle in a matter of days. This is Talia's first visit to the castle with his girls. Lean settles in with them and becomes comfortable. The staff soon arrives and settles into their workstations throughout the castle. In order to make self-transportation easier, Talia builds a teleportation portal between his castle and the mansion in Belfast. Renette and he explore the portal. Talia discovers he has been called to the king's palace upon arriving at the mansion. Rick Refris, the king of Refris, meets him when he arrives at the palace. It seems that news of Tuya's newly established kingdom has reached the furthest regions of Refris. Rick would like to show the Belfast king his new castle. When they arrive at his new castle, Talia lets them go. He is unable to think of the ideal indoor pastime to incorporate into his castle, so he keeps wondering. He continues to believe that his wives would wipe them all out. Nevertheless, he designs every one of them and includes a spa so they can unwind when needed. Tsubaki pays Talia a visit later in the day and requests to work for him as his subordinate. She tells Talia that the Takedons have already split up when he inquires about them. Tsubaki informs him that the newly appointed ruler disregarded the people and had his territories seized by influential countries. Because they had no land to call their own, Tsubaki reasoned that she could take her surviving family to live with Talia in his new kingdom. This is accepted by Talia and grants everyone entry into his realm. They sincerely thank Talia for allowing them to remain in his realm when they meet with him today. He talks about building the entire country with Master Kusaka during their meeting. Kusaka is now Brunhild's urban planner as a result. Brunhild transforms from a castle to a few houses for her new residents in a few scenes. Additionally, Tuya's magic facilitates things since he can quickly construct these kinds of structures. As Tuya's fiancée, Lucia finds it challenging to get used to her new life. When she confides in the women, they reassure her that she will eventually grow accustomed to it. After packing her husband a lunch, she heads into town to meet him. She hands over her lunch to Talia, who devours it whole. He's going to host a party in his new castle soon and invites kings from other kingdoms. While they eat, drink, and play games during their free time, everyone has a fun-filled day. When dusk comes, Talia leads everyone outside to watch the fireworks. Talia's knowledge of such things surprised and impressed the monarchs. Lucia receives an engagement ring from Talia as she approaches her. Talia places the ring on Lucia's finger and holds her hand, bringing joy to Lucia's face. In search of what appears to be the next Babylonian ruin, Toy sets out with his girls. They discover a strange structure with a hole in its head when they arrive. Talia burrows down and enters the ruins. He teleports to Babylon's alchemy ward after spotting the magic circle. Now that Flora has a large chest and is a robot, Tuya finds himself drawn to her. If she doesn't mind, he's there to take over the alchemy ward since he's already taken over the workshop and the garden. Feeling ecstatic, Flora tells Talia that in order to rule for herself, she must first verify his legitimacy. She takes Tuya's hand in hers and rests it on her large chest to accomplish this. After that, she gives him a kiss and finishes his registration. Tuya has now fully acquired ownership of the alchemy ward. Talia visits the facility to have a look. Flora informs him that in order to create chimeras and other creatures, the alchemy ward combines magic with material matter. She gives him a tour of the alchemy ward's additional tools and supplies. Once he's had enough, Talia brings his women to the establishment. Lindsay and Elsa are shocked by Flora's large chest, which serves as a reminder of their own diminutive size. Flora makes sure Talia knows she kissed and cuddled her before the girls arrive. The women chastise Tuya because they are envious. Talia returns to his kingdom after claiming the alchemy ward and continues studying a new spell. The fly spell allows the user to fly and move through the air like a bird. On his first try, Talia not only grasps the concept, but also incorporates some twists. It is Talia's decision to cast a levitation spell on Lindsay that follows his training. This is successful as well because Talia shows Lindsay to the top floor of his castle. Then he travels throughout his small realm using his fly spell. About that time, he was greeted with cheers from the takedowns who had seen him flying overhead. Waving back at them, Talia continues to soar. He answers a call from the maker that he receives right then. The Love Queen is at the other end. She gave him a call to express her congratulations on his new standing. Talia informs Yi's parents of his engagement to Yi after the call. To their surprise, Yi's father extends an unconditional hand in marriage. Talia next encounters the uncle of Linz and Elsa. Along with him, they support his marriage to their nieces. Following the meeting, Talia has a conversation with one of the house's children. He is asked if he could beat a thunder bear by the young child. When Talia inquires as to what it's all about, Lin's aunt informs him that nearby villagers are being terrorized by thunder bears. In the forest, Talia faces and vanquishes every thunder bear he comes across. He finds Enda again when he gets to the library after the fight. He asks him some questions about the phrases as he sits him down. They are extraterrestrial beings sent to their world in search of the king's core, Enda informs him. They approach the king's core through the infrasonic sound it produces. A human heartbeat, though, muffles that sound. Thus, in order to cut down on noise, the phrases must kill them. End informs Toya that he is looking for some haze as well, in order to eliminate their source before the more advanced ones arrive. Shortly afterward, End departs. When Talia comes to visit the workshop, she asks Rosetta if she can make frame gears in bulk. Rosetta tells him that at the moment she can't, because making one would require obtaining an excessive amount of supplies. At this point, their only option is to gather every resource they can. Returning to his palace, Talia consults with his creatures regarding locating supplies. They recommend that he make a deal with the Emperor of Flames. Also, she will assist him in obtaining all necessary supplies. With the aid of his other beasts, Talia goes to his yard and calls forth the Flame Emperor. Upon calling forth the Flame Beast, Talia requests to establish a covenant with her. She accepts right away, and Talia calls her Kajoku. Subsequently, she changes into a small bird and perches upon him. All the birds in the vicinity receive a message from her telling them to go look for more Babylonian ruins and to come back to her as soon as they do. On a lovely morning, Yumina is sleeping close to Talia when he wakes up. As soon as he welcomes her, he realizes that Yumina wasn't with him the night before. Yumina is asked by him why she was lying on his bed. Yumina tells him he's been too busy building a nation, and she wanted to spend some time with her fiancé. Talia stumbles off the bed, thinking to himself how exhausted he must be to have missed her approaching the bed. Yumina gives him a cheek kiss before disappearing to change. In order to avoid the girls, Talia retreats to his yard later that morning. He gets a report from one of the scouting birds when the flame beast flies by. Evidently, they had discovered a location that resembled the Babylonian ruins. Talia gathers his girls and talks about their journey to the next Babylon. All of the girls are curious about what kinds of things they might come across en route to Babylon. They soon all got on the road. They encounter a rhinoceros monster en route to their destination. In no time at all, the girls charge toward the monster and defeat it. As the girls battle every monster on their own, Talia is left to observe them. They reach the Babylon ruin a few miles later. Talia teleports himself onto the floating island after discovering the magic circle. He locates Monica, the island's administrator, and makes his introduction. Talia evades Monica's attacks as she tries to kill him first. Monica challenges Talia to a duel to demonstrate his might. But Talia tricks her into tripping and falling multiple times until she gives up using the slip spell. Talia is named as the new Babylon Hangar Chief by Monica. When Talia learns that he has discovered the hangar, he gets excited and asks Monica to show him around. He sees the first frame gear in history with Monica. When Talia sees the equipment, he is overjoyed and prepares to ride. Monica, however, pops his bubble and informs him that the stuff is ineffective. Talia is depressed, but Monica tells him that Flora from the alchemy ward might be able to help. As soon as Talia returns to the mansion, she discovers that the frame gears will require a significant quantity of spellstones to operate. Talia mines the spellstones that are all around them by using his phone to find them. They prepare to pilot it by turning on the frame gears shortly. But before entering a real one, Rosetta constructs a frame gear simulator so her master can practice riding one before entering the real one. Talia enters the simulator after saying thank you for her thoughtfulness. After only a few minutes, he masters the use of the frame gear and even engages in combat with another one. Once back at the mansion, Talia copies the simulator so his wives can play with it. He's thinking happily of all the cool things he could do with the frame gears when Sushi comes up to him and asks him to marry her. Talia finds this abrupt choice surprising and inquires about the true motivation behind her desire to wed him. It transpired that Sushi was set to enter into an arranged union with Prince Zabon, the despicable despot and adulterer of Linnea Kingdom. Talia finds out about Zabon's awful personal life. He can't possibly let a man like that near Sushi. He pledges to take action in this regard. When he discusses marrying Sushi with the other wives, they all readily accept. In order to manage the situation in Linhaya's kingdom, Talia asks for advice. Some of the girls suggest he takes the prince's life. However, he pays Alfred a visit to talk about things. Zabon gets away with his crimes because, according to Alfred, he is the prime minister's son. And he tells Talia that the king of Linhea is nothing more than a mere figurehead who takes orders from his prime minister. But there is a way out. Talia learns from Alfred that the king's concubine gave birth to a second prince. Talia requests an instant visit with the prince. When he arrives, Alfred tells the prince that Zaboon won't be marrying Sushi again, as she's already been betrothed to Tuya. The first Prince Cloud pays his respects to Talia and settles down to tell Alfred and Talia everything. Cloud reveals to Talia and Alfred that he is the second prince to the king of Linhea. He also tells them that his mother, who is rumored to be kept hidden due to an illness she had, is actually being held prisoner by Prime Minister Wardak. Their plan is to marry their dimwit son, Zaboon, to a princess, and have him take over the throne as the new ruler of Linhea. After hearing all the evil plans of the Prime Minister, Alfred decides to do something about it. He calls the other leaders for a meeting to decide whether or not they'll be offering their support to Cloud. After much deliberation, the rulers of Refris, Mistmade, and Belfast all agree to help Cloud take over his kingdom. Talia sets his plan in motion. First of all, he teleports himself, Cloud, Yi, and Linz to Linhea instantly. Only this time, he conceals himself, and the ladies are invisible. They all follow Cloud to the palace to meet his deadbeat brother Zaboon. Zaboon asks him for Sushi. However, Cloud tells him he couldn't get her, because she's already betrothed to someone else. Zaboon gets irritated and slaps Cloud. He then talks down to him and asks for Sushi's suitor. Cloud tells him it's Tuya. Zaboon tells Cloud to spread awful rumors about Talia and Brunhild, so as to discredit him and make Sushi reconsider marrying Tuya. At this point, Talia and his ladies, who were already reeking in resentment for Zaboon, are about to attack the prince. However, his mother shows up and soothes her son's ego. After they leave, Talia takes Cloud to a hidden storage room to heal him. Soon, Talia gates himself to Zaboon's slave and releases her from her enslavement collar. Zaboon notices this immediately and calls for his slave. He rushes to ask Cloud if he's seen her, but Cloud tells him no. Unknown to Zaboon, the slave was just behind Cloud, hiding with Talia and the ladies in the storeroom. Zaboon sees Wardak and asks him if he's seen her. Wardak tells him to kill the slave with the collar if it turns out she's escaped. Zaboon does so immediately and shrinks the collar. Thankfully, Talia had already removed it so the girl didn't die. They follow Wardak and his son Zaboon, and overheard them talking about using Cloud to wage war on the nations near them. Talia gets all the information he needs and plans to infiltrate the palace later on. By nightfall, Talia teleports himself, the girls, and Cloud to the tower where his mother is being kept. After a hearty reunion with his mom, Talia takes them back to Belfast with him. Marquis Coupe, the real Prime Minister of Linhea, is the next person they get to meet. They plan to capture the Prime Minister in silence and strip Zaboon of his right to the throne. Talia cooks up a plan and gets right to it. The next day, Talia makes himself invisible again and slips into the Linhea palace. Wardak doesn't take the news of Cloud's mother's disappearance. He orders his guards to keep searching through the palace and find them. Talia manages to get into the same room with Wardak and the king's wife. While invisible, he takes out his phone and records Wardak and the king's wife's plan to not only overthrow the king, but also eliminate his bloodline and make Zaboon king. After getting his evidence, Talia shows it to his girls, the Marquis, and the king of Linhea himself. The king calls a meeting with his officials to announce his successor to the throne. Wardak and the king's wife are present to hear the good news. However, the king shocks them as he appoints Cloud as the next king of Linhea. Zaboon, Wardak, and the king's wife challenge his decision to name Cloud as king of Linhea. The king calls Talia to the stage to present his evidence. Talia plays the recording in front of everyone and exposes them. As punishment for their treason, the king sentences them to the death penalty. Then he leaves things in the hands of the new king, Cloud. Wardak and his people are sold off as slaves to a slave master. Talia returns home to meet his new wife, Sushi. At first he fails to recognize her as his wife. However, Sushi's cuteness makes him accept her as his new wife. In the first scene, Talia and his ladies attend Lion and Olga's marriage ceremony. Their parents thank Talia for bridging the gap between both families and joining them to be one. Talia accepts their thanks and continues talking with his wives-to-be. Sushi and Yumina ask the Riz King when he plans on hosting their wedding ceremonies. Talia just keeps quiet and tells them he'd think about it. When they get back to the mansion, Yumina suggests the ladies all get to know each other more. In her words, she plans to cultivate their love and strengthen their intimacy. Talia objects to that, telling them he already has a lot on his plate already. However, the girls complain of feeling too lonely as Talia isn't around too often. To make it up to them, Talia decides to take them all out to enjoy themselves. The girls quickly dress themselves up and all appear beautiful and cute in front of their husband. Talia compliments their dress and takes them to the Kingdom of Refries. There, they shop at a present shop to get some presents. Next up, they get to a restaurant to eat some food. Later on, they find some posters about Real's next release. As they fantasize about what the book could entail, they get mugged by some hungry crooks. The ladies take care of the crooks, and they continue their journey. By evening time, Talia admits he enjoys spending time with all his wives, so they pull him to their next destination. On their way, they find Sushi, who they seem to have forgotten about. She throws a tantrum and makes Talia promise to take her along with him on their next date. The next day, Sushi gets to go out with Tuya. After a whole day of enjoying themselves, the duo sit down on a lawn somewhere around Brunhild. Sushi reminds her husband to be about all the good things he's been able to achieve in such a short time. Talia feels pretty good about himself as he thinks about his achievements. Soon, he receives a transmission from Flora telling him she's already finished extracting the ether liquid from the stones. In a few moments, Talia gets to the frame gear with his ladies and gets Yi to ride it for the first time. Talia is to go in next, but Elsa beats him to it. In the next scene, Talia walks to the Babylon workshop to collect his new weapon, a sword constructed entirely out of Freza material. Talia likes his new sword and asks Rosetta if they could mass produce them. Rosetta tells him they could, but they would need to replenish on orichalcum. Talia gets back to Brunhild and thinks of a means to collect more orichalcum. Yumina and Lucia discover him wandering in town and join him. Talia tells them about his search for orichalcum, and they tell him to search for orichalcum golems and defeat them for their substance. Talia takes out his phone and pings the position of the orichalcum golems. He then uses Fly to raise himself to the skies and fly towards one of the sites. On getting there, he discovers a town already swamped by phrases. The soldiers seem to be having difficulties destroying them, so he goes down to help. Talia uses his new sword to finish off all the phrase materials throughout the town. When he's done, he heals all the wounded people and offers Lestia, the first princess, a phrase sword. Lestia recognizes Talia from the news of his travels and pays her compliments. Talia continues his search for the orichalcum golem and discovers it in the woods. He takes it down and sends it to the workshop before continuing his voyage. On his way, he discovers a deer and follows it to a riverside. There he finds a girl half dead and attempts to heal her. However, she was too weak to get up as she's already lost too much blood. After discovering the bleeding lady, Talia took her to the alchemy lab in the floating garden. Just one day later, Monica works her magic and heals up the wounded pink-haired girl. She, however, advises Talia that the lady may have lost her memories due to the injuries she got on the job. Talia asks her whether it's an after consequence of the treatment from the drug she was taking. Monica teases him a little bit before taking him to see the patient. On reaching to her room, Talia asks the girl for her name. However, as she couldn't remember anything from her prior life, she has no name. Talia names her Sakura and takes her to his mansion after she's discharged. At the mansion, Talia meets with Lindsay and Lou to chat about their new visitor. He tells them that Sakura would be staying in the guest room in the mansion. Currently, at that moment, she's outside for a stroll. The girls remark about her feeling too carefree for someone who just lost her memories. However, Talia reminds them that since she recalls nothing, She literally has nothing to be unhappy about. The girls excuse themselves and Talia meets Sakura outdoors in the garden there. He finds her singing out with her delightful voice. Talia gets genuinely shocked and compliments her song and voice. Talia gets an idea. He takes Sakura to the music room and plays the piano while she sings her song. All the girls hear the sweet voice and soon appear in the music room to hear Sakura and their man perform. Everyone has a good time as Talia adds some polish to his style and lets everyone appreciate it. After the performance, Talia visits the Adventurers Guild seeking a new employment. The attendant there requests Talia to assist them combat a strong monster she called the Catapulpus. Talia begs for some additional information, and the attendant tells him the creatures have the power to petrify their assailants with their gaze. So far, around 13 of the adventurers who went to hunt the beast have been turned to stone. Talia also discovers that they currently reside in the Militia Mountains. Finally, he wonders about the payoff for putting down such a beast, and the attendant tells him it's a high price. Talia chooses to do it for the money and asks his women to remain at home, whether or not they'll be required to aid him. His wife consider the specifics of the assignment and finally agree to help him. Talia brings his wife to the alchemy ward and grants them new swords to make it easier to combat the monster. Once they've all had their swords, they get into the forest to hunt the Catapulpus monsters. Talia uses his smartphone to hunt for the monster. After trekking a few meters, he encounters a Catapulpus monster eating grass. When the monster eyes them, Talia and his wives spring into action. They try their magic attacks on the monster, but the creature vomits out poisonous fog that almost hits Linza. Talia saves one of his wives and then gets serious. He takes out his sword and slashes off the monster's head. When he's done, his body begins to turn to stone. He uses his power to remove the stones from his leg and replaces his shoes. A few minutes later, Lu's skirt and lower body is petrified. This means she may have to change her clothes and underwear. The girls promptly rush in to rescue their fellow colleague after shoving Talia away. While they think of what to do about the lady, another Catapulpus monster arrives and petrifies Talia's legs. He removes the stones from his leg and takes down the second monster. His wife thanks him for the support, and they get back to the Adventurers Guild. They also carry the other 13 adventurers and Talia frees them. After obtaining their reward, Talia and the other kings try out a new set of frame gears. After the tests, the kings of the surrounding kingdoms all relax out with Talia. On the other hand, Hilda, the princess of Lestia, and her grandpa debate the fascinating new sword that Talia and his crew were processing. He thinks visiting Brunhild to see the Talia and speak business with him. Hilda, who's been eager to visit Talia, agrees to follow her grandpa. Talia spends some of his afternoon leisure time in the workshop garden, monitoring the fabrication of new framed gears. When suddenly, he receives a message that someone who claims to be his older sister was at his estate and was asking his presence. Talia hears the voice from the Pa and realizes that the person's none other than the goddess of love. He swiftly runs to his mansion and finds himself in a meeting between his wives and the goddess of love. Soon after introducing herself, Talia's wives give them the room to catch up on old times. The goddess informs Talia she came down from heaven to feed on the immense amount of love Talia was getting from the females and everyone around him. Talia grows bored of her yapping and allows her to stay with him. Just then, one of his maids announces the coming of someone from the Lestia kingdom. Talia begs them to wait a bit before he attends to them. However, the maid tells him they are currently at the knights' training area, spectating the training knights. Talia gets over there and finds Princess Hilda and her grandpa. They're waiting for him. Her grandpa expresses his greetings and intends to do some sightseeing in Brunhild. Talia welcomes him to his country and hopes he has a wonderful time. The grandpa, however, seems more interested in the maid's butt, and he even touches it. Hilda apologizes for her grandpa's misdemeanor, and then they continue talking. The grandpa wonders about the frame gears, and Talia takes him to the training field to witness him display the gears in real time. Hilda and her grandpa are both shocked to see the tremendous strength of the robots. Grandpa asks Talia what he plans on doing with the frame gears. Talia informs him he's loading up on soldiers to face the phrase monsters that may invade the lands in the nearest future. Grandpa wonders whether he may let Lestia utilize the robots when the need be. Talia tells him no problem. Up next, Hilda requests Talia to allow her to face the strongest person in his kingdom. Talia pits her against Yi, his strongest wife, and they get to fight it out in the arena. After few minutes of seriousness, Hilda defeats Yi in a friendly spar. After the argument, she learns out he was one of Toya's many wives. She is really agitated as she herself had intentions to reveal her affections to Toya. Yi feels history is about to repeat itself. She and the goddess of love butts in and helps Hilda express her feelings to Tuya. So out of nowhere, Hilda becomes the seventh wife of Tuya. Man, this guy's riz is contagious, my bro. Anyways, Hilda is more than eager to join the crew of spouses. Talia was collecting with Talia looking perplexed as usual. Her grandpa, however, comes in and refuses to surrender his granddaughter without a struggle. So he challenges Hilda to a fight. If she wins, she gets to wed Tuya. Before the combat, the other women welcome Hilda to the company and admire the link her country would provide to Brunhild. The goddess of love soon steps in and begs Hilda to tell her how she fell in love with Tuya. Hilda hesitantly tells everyone about the first time Talia saved her from the creatures haunting her land at the time. She stated she was so taken aback by his coolness and strength that she fell in love with him at first sight. The girls all shout for a beautiful narrative. The goddess, however, merely carries on feeding on the love in the air and nourishes her skin. The girls then remind Hilda of her match with her grandpa and tell her to win at all costs so she can join them. A few minutes later, Hilda fights her grandpa. In the first half of the bout, the grandpa grabs the win. But Talia pulls a foul trick, summoning a woman in a bathing suit. Hilda's grandfather becomes briefly sidetracked and is eventually overcome by his granddaughter. The grandfather concedes defeat as Hilda easily wins the battle. He grants Hilda and Talia his blessing and demands that they make a self-defense pledge. Hilda bends down after the struggle, honoring the new life she is going to embark on. They discuss Tuya's parents and ponder over their identities. They should not put too much pressure on the small man, the goddess intervenes. When he is comfortable sharing more about his family, he will. Meanwhile, she would tell them about Tuya's boyhood first love. After hearing the goddess narrative, the girls all blush with happiness. Talia contracts the flu when he is with Sakura in the meantime. Talia receives word in a few hours on the abandoned ruin of one of his floating gardens that was located near Lestia, Hilda's realm. As Talia is pondering his options, all 7 of his wives arrive and don the same attire that his first love, Sister Shauko, was sporting. Talia becomes enraged with the goddess of love after learning that she betrayed him. When the girls ask Talia for his opinion on how they are dressed, he responds that everyone looks good. He plans to save the goddess retribution for a later time. Soon after, Talia returns to the deserted ruins in Lestia, this time by himself. He discovers upon arriving that the rampart and Babylon's tower are located within the ruins. Tuya is given an explanation by the guardian Lyra, who shows up. She informs him that control of the tower can only pass to someone who gets along. She immediately gives Talia command over the tower, as it seems like he has all the affinities. She then takes him to another woman who was asleep by a bush, the tower administrator. Lyra is asked by Talia to rouse Pamela, but she remains still. Lyra coaxes Pamela out of her sleep by bringing her a hot kebab. Pamela becomes conscious and requests further sustenance and temporary housing before she can genuinely serve Tuya. That's not an issue, Talia assures her, and she goes on to finish the registration process by kissing her master's mouth. When the registration is over, she requests for additional food, which Talia kindly provides. She then goes on with her business and hands Talia off to Lyra, who gives him a kiss to finish the registration. Lyra gives Tuya ownership of the rampart after registration is finished. Lyra and Pamela show Talia the reactor that transforms air and water energy into magical energy after they have completed the ownership transfer. As usual, Pamela drifts off to sleep and lets Lyra handle the sightseeing. After they've finished, for some sightseeing, Talia teleports his wives to the rampart. After recounting all of Tia's marriages, Lyra discovers that Sue has vanished. And at that moment, his beast asks a gate to carry a critical message to Tuya. When Talia allows him into the room, she discovers that Belfast's queen has already been put to bed. As soon as Talia opens the palace gate, he sees the king giggling with delight over his lively baby child. When he asks Talia to name the infant, he gives it the name Yamato. Raising the baby high in the sky, the king is enamored with the name. That night, when the infant starts to wail, the monarch rushes back to give the child back to his mother. One day off for the girls while on vacation. As they cool off, they congregate at the bathhouse and discuss the impending party for the new successor to the Belfast throne. As they spoke, they imagine what their own children would someday look like. Talia's administrators inform him just outside the bathhouse that he is destined to have up to 9 wives. Talia becomes extremely agitated since he is already finding it difficult to maintain the happiness of 7 women. His attendants even start thinking about marrying him. Talia is dumbfounded. Later, after getting dressed up, the females approach Talia in a line and beg him to share with them the contents of his conversation with his servants. Talia does everything in his power to dissuade Lyra from telling anyone that he has 9 wives, but they all ignore him and listen to Lyra tell it all. They become somewhat shocked upon learning that their spouse might have multiple women. In order for them to fully discuss his punishment, Linza begs her husband to get them back to the mansion. The sisters debate for a little while in the mansion before deciding to let him live. He is, however, ordered to kiss them on the lips as payment for his attempts to hide information from them. After being taken aback, Talia orders them to complete the prince's naming ceremony. He'll kiss each of them after that. Since the females concur with him, they carry out the preparations. Talia and the others celebrate the prince's birth later that evening by feeding the commoners and watching the fireworks. Since he started kissing the girls, Talia feels incredibly appreciative of everything. The others, including Lu, Sushi, and Linz, handle it fairly well. But the cringe makes Hilda pass out, and Yi punching Talia in the air with Elsa. They get to view the final fireworks display and enjoy their evening once he has finished kissing all of his brides. They seek Lyra, who has an orb that can see into the future, to see their master's future.